So after 2 weeks of Ohio State football's run game being underwhelming, including Saturday and its win at Penn State, a lot of conversation about that today at the Woody Hayes Athletic Center as we're heading into Ohio State's next game against Northwestern. I'm Nathan Baird from cleveland.com along with Stephen Means and Doug Lesmerises. And we've been talking a lot on Buckeye Talk about how critical it is, or whether it's critical, that Ohio State gets the run game going. I think you can tell from talking to Ryan Day today that I don't think it's something he's panicked about, but he does believe that Ohio State is going to have to establish that it can run the ball to set up what it wants to be offensively 4 games later this season.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a really interesting process, and it's interesting to hear Ryan Day talk about the process. And Bill Landis from Rivals was kind of asking him about the process, and there's a lot of things about tendencies. And Ryan Day knows his tendencies. They have the charting of this is what we do out of every formation, and they're very aware of all that. But I do think I think there's a belief that some of it's like an execution issue, because like Ryan Day's main point when he was being asked about, hey, you run out of the pistol. When you get in the pistol, you run a lot. You don't maybe do a lot of other things. He's like, well, but like I think he believes but if we execute it correctly, it will work, and it did work a lot of the time. And so I do think there's just a lot of it, sort of like just on the execution of however you line up. We believe that we have the talent that it should work. And yes, we know there are tendencies, but I think it's that schematic discussion and then the execution or lack of execution within certain aspects of that I find fascinating, and he's clearly thinking about it. But I think he does. I think we got from the exchange publicly, he has a belief in the scheme. Like, I don't think he's really questioning it. It's like we just need to do it a little bit better.
Yeah, and I think these next 3 games, at least the next 2 games, Northwestern, Indiana, all respect to them, I guess, maybe even into Maryland, depending on what they're able to do offensively at that point, are all games where Ohio State can work on itself heading into the Michigan game. I don't think they can take any game for granted, but a great opportunity now to refine some of these issues. And I think there are some issues in the run game. And part of the conversation today in various questions was, how much blame do you put on one place? How much credit do you give to Penn State? Like, there's some of that to go either way. But I also got the impression that Ohio State feels like there was a better running performance there against Penn State if it had just executed a lot of that better.
Day says this a lot. It's coaching, it's scheme, and it's personnel. And all 3 of those things have to be clicking together for something to work. And I think when you're watching a game in the moment, it's easy to pick one of those things, even if it's not completely always the answer. Did Ryan Day have the best play calling game on Saturday? Maybe not. Maybe he did, maybe he didn't. But you can also look at some of the personnel and say, was Travion Henderson hitting some holes, or was he missing some holes he should have hit? Maybe that's true as well. Was the line getting beat at times? Sure. That's part of it as well. But it seems like in this situation, in whatever order of one, maybe it's 1A and 1B right now, but it seems like the scheme is fine. It's more of just like the coaching and the personnel part of it that haven't quite clicked. And maybe some of that is from a personnel standpoint, especially in that running back room, guys have been in and out of the lineup with Travion Henderson and Mayan Williams. And so we've seen them together once, basically in the past 6 or 7 weeks. And it was against Wisconsin, I believe, where they both had 100 yards. Besides that, they've been in and out of the lineup with each other. So maybe if you get those guys healthy, we maybe find out who's a better fit. Because they're both talented, but that doesn't mean both of them fit this scheme the same way, especially this year with what the other personnel is. So it's a little bit of everything involved there. And so Ryan Day got a little testy when he basically publicly got questioned about his play calling. But some of it is that. But then if we talk to Travion Henderson or some of his offensive linemen, they'll probably get a little bit testy too if we ask him, hey, did you have the best game on Saturday?
Ryan Day said it was like a different guy in every play. And I think when you watch it, you do see that. It's like, I don't know that they're, from the execution standpoint, that it was like, oh, this. Right. It was like, well, on this play, this guy missed a block. On this guy missed a block. On this play, maybe you could have hit the hole differently. So it's hard to pinpoint. I don't think there is from an execution standpoint, like, it's not like they're going to, like, change a guy. You know what I mean? It's just like 10 out of 11 guys are doing the job, and one guy didn't quite do it.
On that play, and on the next play, it might be somebody else. Speaking of personnel, Ryan Day deferred anything about injuries until the status report on Saturday morning. I think they're going to be more strict about that policy going forward. He's kind of walked the line a little bit in the past couple months, and now I think he's going to be very much a Saturday morning thing. So he said the Mayan Williams injury that he sustained against Penn State was not serious, was his quote. Did not give an indication of how quickly he will be back. I think the way it looked, it seems like there would be a decent chance that maybe at least this coming week he's not available to play against Northwestern. It might be Trayvon Henderson up front. But he also said that Chip Trayanum now is a full-time running back. Like, as of now, like, there's no bouncing back and forth between linebacker and running back for him. They need him for depth, and that he would be ready to play in a game. He was ready to play against Penn State more. I guess he didn't really play against Penn State. He had the one carry against Iowa, and will be ready if they need him for some reason against Northwestern on Saturday. So more about this on Buckeye Talk as we get talking about that game throughout the week. And get the text 614-350-3315 for more news and updates throughout the week from Buckeye Talk.